Welcome to the podcast today. I've got two special guests. I'd like to introduce you to Mike and Andy from Enduro Bearings. Thanks for coming over. Mike, you've come from France.
Yeah, I have. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, obviously, we know you from what we see on your YouTube channel and stuff like that. And so it's a fantastic opportunity just to come and just chat about stuff and listen to what you got to say.
I think you're being brave. We've got some tough questions for you here.
No, we're here to answer whatever we can as well as we can.
Yeah, and a lot of these questions I'm going to ask will come from our audience as well. Comment sections have been inspired by them. And Andy, you work here in the UK, so you're the mechanics that represent or work in workshops around the UK. You're the point of contact for us.
Pretty much, yeah. So I work for the UK distributor, and I basically do a bit of training for dealers and all around.
And SciTech, I've just heard as well. You've been doing some training with the trainers, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, so
it's good. So we're helping the industry along, I think. So
yeah, you're trying to.
So the way this podcast is going to go, I want to talk a bit about the history as far as I've seen enduro through my career in the bike industry, and then get your comments on that. And then we're going to introduce some products and what I think your reaction is to some of the other products that are emerging on the market as well, because you've probably enjoyed not a monopoly, but a fairly high profile in the industry, and you've probably seen more and more people pile into that. So I guess what I've seen is a long, long time ago, we just had cup and cone bearings. For a long, long time, hubs and bottom brackets and headsets were pretty much just loose balls. And then probably Hope were probably one of the first brands I remember bringing the world to industrial cartridge type bearings, and it's exploded from there. And I think I remember Enduro coming along as a more premium bearing for upgrading my Hope bearings, I guess, at the time. And then we've seen full suspension mountain bikes develop, and pivot bearings and max capacity.
Yeah.
And I think for a long, long time in my career, Enduro was seen as like the bee's knees. That was the thing to go for. And I guess a chap called Hambini probably came along, and others, who started introducing us to the world of other Japanese industrial bearings such as NTN and SKF. And I think now we're at a point where our customers certainly are saying, hey, what about these NTN bearings I hear so much about? How do they compare? And I think that's where the industry is now. Cartridge bearings are really popular, but you've got some competition. Is that how you see it? What's been your reflection of the last 15, 20 years of?
Well, I mean, we've, Enduro came on the scene back in 1996.
Yeah, it's about that time of Hope and
that's right. And and the first bearing, as you quite rightly say, was we introduced the what's called the max bearing, max complement bearing for suspension pivots, and that was really where it all kind of started. With something like this little suspension pivot here, which is full of balls with no retainer and stuff. And so that's really that was a starting point. And I don't know whether it's interesting about the actual inspiration for this.
I never knew that, actually. This has got to do with forklift trucks.
It has.
It makes so much sense.
So basically, Matt Harvey, the co-founder of the company, we have an industrial division as well. And the company made, and still makes, big bearings for like forklifts, up into, forklifts that lift 40-foot containers and so on. And so he actually saw the application of those bearings actually don't need to spin. So they actually only have a limited amount of spin in it. Yeah. And he said, that's an application for suspension pivots, because suspension pivots basically do this.
Yeah.
And so that was where this came from. So remove the retainer, put the maximum number of balls inside, which then vastly increases the loading capacity of the bearing. And we see we're not the only people now that make this type of bearing. So I guess the proof is, we've been emulated, let's say, across the industry, which is fine. That's the way the world is.
It's definitely the bulk of our stock holding downstairs is the max capacity for suspension pivot bearings and that sort of thing. And it has caused some confusion over the years as well, as people scroll through as, max, it must be maximum endurance.
That's the best. We'll have that everywhere.
But it's definitely suspension pivots. I think pivot. That message is getting through now.
It's a pivot bearing, don't use it in hubs. It's not the ideal. The one thing which I'm sure we'll talk about, is that having the right bearing for the right application is fundamentally important.
Yeah.
And, and in terms of design, but also in terms of materials and so on and so forth.
Yeah, we're going to talk about materials, but I now see that you do that in a black oxide and different, like you can type in a code number and there's so many options that come up now with various coatings and sealants. it's getting a bit. It's
complicated, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. Yeah, and I think it's definitely where you're coming in is to helping mechanics really understand the differences and the advantages, because it is a very confusing subject. But I guess what our channel's famous for is bottom brackets, and to some extent is headsets as well. So you've got really two bottom brackets, and part of the interest of you coming on the show was I reviewed your Maxhit bottom brackets a little while ago, and in that was like, this is a fantastic product, but like the warranty is confusing. So you're here today to give us some good news, and also to reiterate that this Maxhit product is for mountain biking. The clue's in the name, Maxhit. You're going to hit this hard with some impact.
Gravel as well.
I mean, it's basically the Maxhit concept is there is no drop-in bearing.
Yeah.
So you remove the outer race of a normal cartridge bearing, allows more space to fit bigger balls inside.
So just for the sake of the audience, this is the Maxhit bearing here. So rather than this bearing being pushed into an aluminium cup holder,
like traditional like this, where you've got a bearing dropped in.
Yeah, this surface here is actually the outer race.
The outer race. Yeah. And what that does is, obviously, with the maximum, you want more load capacity, essentially. So for certainly for bigger hit bikes, mountain bikes, anything that you ride in, or gravel bikes as well, it really is a great concept, because bigger balls have a bigger contact patch on the race, so it actually reduces friction as well as you use it more. And as the seals bed in, it will become freer. It will spin really well, but it's a 7 times greater load capacity. Yeah. So you can, on big bikes and e-bikes especially. So we do a headset as well, which that one there, that's a lower ZS56
Yeah, these are
headset.
Now we're talking 40 kilo.
That's it.
Bikes,
exactly
big hits. These are amazing. Yeah.
And that's the whole concept with that. Really is for maximum durability.
Yeah,
that's the whole concept with Maxhit. With this product as well, it does come with a lifetime warranty, which you mentioned before.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was going to get into the size of the balls, but
let's whichever way.
The review that I think a lot of people see has been quite a popular review for us. I was like, this is a fantastic product. I really see this, but they're like 280 quid, I think.
180.
180, sorry. So, and how many Shimano bottom brackets could you buy, which are about 30 quid?
Yeah.
And the conversation was, what is really lifetime? And there's a few caveats to your warranty as well at the time, wasn't there? So you had to make sure you service it, replace the seals.
I mean, it's not the original wording perhaps was a little bit unclear. Okay. So that has been revised now. So with Maxhit, it's a lifetime warranty. The big thing with our warranty on Maxhit and XT15 when we get to it is it covers corrosion. So there's very few, if any, other bottom brackets that are covering corrosion.
You're telling me that you've got a lifetime anti-corrosion guarantee?
Yep.
Like Ron Seal.
Basically, yeah.
That's bold.
But because it's a 440C stainless steel, we know that it's not going to corrode in the same way that a chromium steel would.
Okay.
So 440C in the right conditions over a very long period of time will show signs of corrosion, but it's not like a chromium steel bearing which will corrode. If you go out and ride now in the rain, and you put your bike away for a week, and then you get it out and your headset's all stiff, that sort of thing, where basically the water's dried out, and within the bearing itself there's rust.
Okay.
So you don't get that because it's stainless steel. Sorry, go on.
So for clarification, and direct from the horse's mouth, what is the warranty situation on Maxhit bearings?
So the warranty, it covers it for life, but the only thing we've changed in the warranty terms is that it should be serviced once a year.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because it's stainless steel, it does need grease.
Okay. And your idea of a service involves?
So the service involves you can, if you're competent as a consumer or as a dealer, it basically pop the seals off.
So this is
so you can
either green that you can see here.
Yeah.
Pop that off with a
scalpel blade. Yeah. Usually go from the inner race.
Leave that off. Yeah.
Yeah. Clean it out. So you can either the best way and the most effective is in an ultrasonic cleaner, which for you guys and dealers, that's an easy way. Yeah. But if you want to leave it in the bike, you can just pop the seal off, spray it out with a degreaser, let it dry out, re-grease it, put the seal back
So
on.
any particular degreasers? We probably use WD-40 contact cleaner or disc brake cleaner, something like that.
Anything like that.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
fine. Yeah,
Flush it.
None of it.
Yeah.
Flush it out
Yeah.
as most as you can. I mean, and then just re-grease it, put the seal
And
back
do you
on.
have a
And if
type of grease?
and if ever you were to damage the seal, we deliver with extra seals in the box.
Yeah, okay.
You actually get spare seals in the box.
And you can buy them separately as well.
Yeah.
So it's a really, I mean, ideally, you should service it once a year for optimum performance.
And what type of grease are you recommending?
Well, we do our own greases, which that particular one comes with the speed grease, so which is the kind of more performance orientated grease. I think it's a Kluber branded one. But again, like grease makes a difference in any bearing. They're the greases we've tested to be the ones we want to use, you could use a different grease.
Okay.
And it wouldn't affect the warranty. No, nothing like that. So
No, I think just, for clarity, you take something like a suspension pivot. We don't use the same grease in a suspension pivot that we would use in an XT15 or a Maxhit. Obviously, use a much more tacky grease because it doesn't need to spin in the same way. So we have, like Andy says, we have 3 different greases. We don't make grease. We buy grease in, ones which we think are really well adapted to the application, which is what we said.
And I'm sure that's a closely guarded secret, as much as we'd all love to know what it is.
on the grease?
Yeah.
No, it's on our website.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we have a Kluger, we have a Mobile. And the third one is
the third one off the top of my head. But then they are readily available from the manufacturer. We do syringes.
I'll have to put it into the description below or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we do them as like a 10-gram syringe. But you can, if you want to buy them
on bulk,
you can buy them in.
I always say for a consumer, that's really good. For somebody who's really in a workshop doing a lot of servicing, that's probably not the most optimal, let's say, quantity. So, we say, this is what we use. We recommend that. If you want to go buy it in bulk, go for it.
Okay, that's great. So on the warranty thing, if someone didn't say service it every year and they still came for a warranty,
we'd certainly look at it. It shouldn't be. I mean, the thing is with a product like that, to get the most amount of life out of it, service it. But for certainly for you guys, if someone's bringing a bike in for an annual service, you just do it as part of an annual service or whichever.
Be looking at is like cyclocross, for instance, is probably the hardest because they pressure wash every lap.
Yes,
exactly. Oh yeah, I know it well.
So the best product for that is XT15.
XT15 for cyclocross.
For cyclocross,
and that's for the sealing, not Maxhit.
So Maxhit is a component.
Okay.
So because of the ball size concept, you can only fit it in certain applications. So it has to be essentially external bottom brackets because you've got the real estate to fit the bigger ball size. Just going on that. So this is a quick visual comparison. Obviously exploded up, but basically an industry standard ball size for a bottom bracket.
So what you're saying is like a 6806 bearing that we've got here. The balls inside this, in theory, would be that size on that scale.
Relatively.
So it's 3.1 mil. Yes, is the ball size.
So inside here, there'll be 3.1 millimeter bearing. Got it.
On our XT15 and our 440C stainless Enduro bottom brackets, we run a 3.9.
Okay.
So even our other ones are bigger than the industry standard.
It's a visual representation of how much bigger that is.
Yeah, bigger. And then it jumps up to Maxhit, which is a 4.75 mil ball. And the big advantage with that is contact patch on the race.
And I'm glad you said that, because if we just say the difference between 3.1 and 4.1, it doesn't sound like a massive difference. But when you scale it up, you can see a big difference.
And it's the contact patch on the race makes a big difference to rolling resistance, but also longevity. It just doesn't dig into the race because you've got a wider, like a 26 versus a 29, or
So I'm just going to pick up on something you just said, which is you see this as a component now.
Yes.
Rather than a part of a component, which is an interesting way of differentiating it, I think, because this is, now you're seeing that everything is built in. This is a one thing.
Yeah, you could almost look at this as a threaded bearing.
Yeah,
basically. So we call them bearing components. Yeah. Because it is essentially, it's not one piece, but you kind of see what I mean. There is no drop in bearing, so it's not two pieces. So the concept is that you can't really do that for a lot of press fit solutions because you can't fit the 4.75 mil fall within a frame with an axle.
So we've got heads-up bearings, your standard BSA, and now you do T47 in all the various fits and stuff that you need, including an asymmetric for the old Factor and Cervelo guys as well.
Yeah,
which is good to see, and that's definitely going to be good for gravel, mountain biking, that high.
You can absolutely use it on the road as well.
Yeah,
you know, if someone wants something really durable at a good price with a lifetime warranty. Trek, for instance, use T47.
Yeah.
But certainly for UK winters, I mean, it makes so much sense to...
And you'd still do that over the XT15 for real durability?
Mainly it's price.
Okay.
So, you know, that's 180 quid for a bottom bracket. Jump up to 280 for an XT15. If you want the ultimate, no service, fit and forget, XT15 is the one. That one does need some grease.
So what you're saying is big hits, big impacts, ultimate durability at a reasonable price and a lifetime warranty. That's your product. Okay, so XT15, which you do impressive applications and thread together, and I think I've made my sort of views felt on, you know, why I don't like using these. It's got to be a real problem solver. But talk me through XT15.
So XT15, you know, why I always say is XT15, in fact, is not an Enduro name. It's a type of steel.
All right, okay.
So it's a type of steel which basically is, rather than be in the hardening process of the steel, whereas like a 52-100 or a normal chromium steel bearing race would be hardened with carbon. The hardening process of XT15 is infused with nitrogen. Now, the result of that is, in fact, is that the actual structure of the steel is far more homogeneous. So you have a very, very smooth surface in there, and very, very tough. Which is of a very similar hardness and toughness as a ceramic ball.
Interesting. Okay.
So what you have then is two materials which are actually very well adapted to one another, and it means that over time you won't get the galling or that kind of the imperfections that you have in a standard bearing caused by the carbides.
Okay.
Where you have the ball rolling over it, it's like potholes in the road.
Yeah.
The XT15 doesn't have that. So
we're talking on a microscopic
absolutely
level, but it does make a difference to
it makes a difference because what happens in the end is, even if you get some dirt or sand or whatever in it, in fact, you could fit and forget, and actually it will just grind up what's inside, and will actually end up burnishing.
So the same idea as how potholes get bigger, isn't it? So potholes start off with a small thing.
That's exactly right.
But they get bigger and bigger and bigger. So once you've got a small hole, bit of dirt gets into it, gets bigger. So
XT15 is a steel which was actually developed in the aviation industry. Airbus use it in like airplane wings for control bearings, which is, you never want to have to go to actually service that bearing. It's just, you know, and if you think about de-icing compounds and all of the, you know, the corrosive materials that they have to endure, XT15 is made for that. It's made for a fit and forget situation in places like Airbus airplane wings, and the application is there for XT15 in bike where it will not rust. It's a steel which doesn't rust.
Yep. And you can buy XT15 either as standalone bearings or pre-installed into your... So if someone has got, say, they can actually pull these bearings out and fit Enduro into whatever carrier that they have.
Essentially, XT15 is a cartridge bearing.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And we just, obviously, we offer bottom brackets with it in. But you can buy the bearings separately. So you can do wheel bearings, you can do hub bearings, bottom bracket.
And where does XT15 for you fit in your range of stainless steel up to ceramic? You do some ceramic work.
So, yeah.
Don't you? So where do you see this?
So XT15 is our pinnacle bearing.
Okay, above.
It is the best.
Okay, even though it's not ceramic?
It is ceramic.
Okay.
So there's, within our range, we have 3 different levels of ceramic bearing. Most ceramic bearings available for the bike industry are ceramic hybrids. So they're a steel race ceramic balls. So we do our entry level ceramic hybrid, we call it.
Yep.
Which is it's an entry point to ceramic.
I think it's perfect. So people start with ceramic bearings, and my experience is they probably don't get the performance they really thought they would do, because you're still at the mercy of the weaker component, which is the race.
Exactly that. Yeah, and you're at the mercy of corrosion.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like if someone's building a summer TT bike that they're going to do 10-mile time trials on, in the dry, you know, something like that will give you a very slight advantage. But there's there's a lot of kind of hysteria about how much watt saving there is in bearings and components.
Maybe
and
that
drive
customer
system
now has gone to ceramic speed or NTN perhaps.
Yeah, but I mean, the essentially a bearing equates to roughly, less than a quarter of a watt of drag.
Yeah.
So it's important, but going from a standard steel Abex 3 to the ceramic hybrid, that will give you a slight advantage, but it's still an entry point.
Yeah.
And then we go to our coated version. So this is still chromium steel.
Yeah.
This one has a nitride coating on there for corrosion resistance.
Yep. So this is just to show you guys. So this is the corrosion test that you brought in. So this is what we'd expect to see taken out of a bike that's had all this corrosion. So this black coating would stop all this.
Prevents it. Yeah. I mean, it will still corrode eventually because it is still chromium steel underneath. Yeah. But it just stops it doing it, as quickly as a standard exposed steel bearing.
Sure.
Essentially, it's the same materials, but the coating obviously gives you more longevity.
This is investing in ceramic, but then your investment's going to pay off a little bit longer because it should last longer.
It will last a bit longer, but it's also the difference with this one is we changed the seals. So on our standard, most of our bearings, they run wheel bearings. We run a combination of LLU and LLB.
So for those who don't know, LLU is a double contact seal.
Yeah, they're all dual contact seals, but LLU basically sits further into the groove. So it offers maximum protection.
Yep.
So generally that goes on the outside, obviously to stop the contaminants.
Yep.
And then the LLB is a lighter contact seal.
You'll see this because the colours would be different.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, it's usually red on one side, black on the other. Basically, the colour should face out of the bike.
Yeah, so the red one is the higher contact seal. Yeah,
exactly that. So, but on the ceramic zeros, we use a VV seal, which is the lightest contact seal we do. So reduce friction. Basically, that's the thing with that. So if you look at it as you look at the range and you go, I want the fastest bearing in the range, ceramic zero out of the box
is the fastest.
Be that.
Okay, so you've got your intro point into ceramic, then you step up, but you don't just get the corrosion resistance, you also get the lighter contact seal as well for a higher spin.
Exactly.
Okay,
and then XT15 sits at the top.
Okay,
so the big difference is it's stainless steel races. As we talked about before with the kind of...
Stainless steel races, ceramic balls.
Yeah, ceramic balls.
And the seal is...
And the seal goes back to an LLB because it's designed... to the standard seal. The reason that is because it's designed for longevity as well as performance. So with that one, as you use it, it will burnish it. It will burnish and it will get faster as you use it. But it still has maximum protection. Now, what you could do, if you wanted speed, you could take the seals out.
Right, okay.
Because it won't corrode, you can do that. It's the only bearing I would ever recommend doing that. Or not recommend.
So you could if you want.
Suggest.
Yeah,
suggest.
Exactly.
But you could do that. I know the testing they did in the US, they ran it for 2 years without seals in.
Okay.
With no issues.
Okay.
So
a little bit what ceramic speeder, I guess, I'm doing with sitting there and stuff. So
but what you find with XT15 though is because it won't corrode and it lasts well, it's great for cross, as you were saying earlier. So for bikes that are constantly jet washed and things like that, you can literally just... I mean, I would recommend with stuff like that. We've got a couple of guys who we've been and visited who did full cross seasons, 2 cross seasons, and they were like, "Oh, it's a little bit of grit feeling in the bottom bracket."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, what do I do with it?" And we'll pop the seals off, same as you would with that. Clean it out, re-grease it, and it will keep you.
And I think
going.
Do you do a press fit 41?
Yeah,
you do it. Yeah.
So we do, depending on what it is. So we do a lot of the thread together. Options, obviously for press fit issues. But we also do a double row PF41 for like dub cranks and 30mm cranks.
Problematic.
It is,
system out there.
And that's
a double row of bearings.
It's a double row of bearings, and we offer that in stainless or in XT15.
But you've actually got some examples here of the corrosion, I think, haven't you? So roughly, I'm going to move this out of the way a bit.
Yeah, so, we amuse ourselves to look at, this is a material story.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And what we've done a few shows now is we actually have a fish tank and aquarium where at the start of the show we'll hang in a various number of bearings going from chromium steel up to our XT15. and just see what happens in the salty water over the 4 days. And you'll see that, including our Abex 3, it will corrode over the few days.
Yep.
And moving up to the XT15, it's absolutely spotless. So, and these are just some examples of things which have been in.
Just tell me through. So we've got here a standard 6806 bearing, which is not an Enduro one, I don't think.
That's not, but I know this one is an Enduro. That's an Abex 3.
So you'll normally tell Enduro bearings because they normally come with this blue seal.
That's it.
This is your, I guess, probably your cheapest option.
That's right. Yeah. So that's the Abex 3.
But then you've got other ones, this is actually a ceramic hybrid bearing.
Yeah.
Which is
an expensive one.
So these are seized. I mean, I can't.
Yeah,
they're seized.
I can't turn that.
This is 4 days in water.
4 days in a tank.
Yeah.
Okay, I've just about got it to move. So this is probably what we would see in a workshop.
Yeah,
exactly.
Someone's been on holiday in Morzine or something, absolutely trashed it, put their bike away, coming to us and going, I trashed my bike and it's broken. And this is probably where we would, interestingly, actually get your guys' point in this. We would probably go. We'd probably pull the seal off and see if it's salvageable.
Yeah.
If it was an expensive bearing, we would probably put it through the sonic cleaner, try and salvage it. If it wasn't, we'd probably just go.
So
interesting where you think that line is, because could that be salvaged?
I think that's probably beyond.
I think that's past.
See, this goes back to what we're saying about the ceramic hybrid bearings. It's chromium steel races. So it's kind of inevitable that there's going to be rust inside, and especially if it's a bearing that doesn't have full contact seal.
Yeah.
Because it won't keep the water out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does spit,
even though it's a ceramic, it hasn't lasted any longer.
That's right.
But if you kept it dry and
and this is an XT15,
and that's been in the tank for 4 days.
They've all been in salty water tank for the same amount of time.
Okay, and I guess you can probably see some rust on there, but it's probably the rust that's come off those.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
So with that, I mean, because it's dual lip seals, so the sealing is better, so it keeps the salt water out a lot easier. But you could pop the seals off, clean it, and just re-grease it if you wanted to. But actually, it spins
perfectly.
For me, that's something I'd service. Like if I
exactly
could just hear that, and I could feel a bit of roughness.
I would, from a price perspective and from a sustainability thing, the more bearings you can salvage and save, the better, rather than just binning them every time. Certainly, ceramic hybrids, I would try and save, because or ceramic bearings, they are expensive. But the reality is, they're going to corrode, and you probably, even if you could get this working reasonable, it's going to be limited life.
So I guess as a professional workshop, we were always torn between the amount of labour time we put into stuff as opposed to just replacing it. And so we always have this discussion where, okay, if someone came in with this, we would definitely serve it. That's an expensive bearing that's worth salvaging. I think that is... And even that's an expensive bearing, it's toast.
Basically, and I think that's the decision that you would make on a case-by-case basis.
And this, I think, was about 16 quid, is that right? We'd just replace that. I don't think we'd even entertain the idea of taking the seals off and trying to clean it. It would just be that, that's gone. And this definitely is. I mean, that's got play in it. I mean, this hasn't been...
No, they've not been used.
That's not been used. It's literally something ahead that's actually got play in it. I guess these are all... And they're not... They're still solid, but they're just rough, aren't they? That one is definitely, that's actually got play in it.
I mean, we're doing this experiment again at Hard Rock this week. So, if anybody's there, it's definitely worth popping along and having a look, because it's amazing how quickly stuff goes.
Okay, so we've got one more thing, which is headset bearings. Now, when you came into the shop, actually, I was asking the guys downstairs and everything. I said, what do you want to see from Enduro? What's the dream product? And they're like, I want to see like XT15 headset bearings throughout the range, every single one. And I was like, that'd be the dream. Now, for you guys, why we were so keen on that is because, as you know, internally routing cables through your headset now is a very common thing. Mountain biking, e-bikes, everything, everyone's doing it. And it's a massive job to do it. And so the XT15 for us was like, it would save us a job. But that's not what you're doing.
No.
So you're not going to bring XT15 to headset bearings.
No.
What are you doing instead?
So basically with XT15, it's a very expensive product. Which, to manufacture and to bring in new sizes is costly. But we already have our 440C stainless steel bearings, which we've done for years. and years, and we sell a lot of. And they are basically bomb-proof as far as a headset bearing goes. You know, they're a max complement. They're filled full of waterproof grease. We basically don't get any issues with them. So we are going to roll out basically a lifetime warranty on those bearings going forward. So that will cover anything. You know, there's no service stipulation on that, because the problem with your integrated cable routing is not the cost of the bearing, it's the cost of the labour to do the actual repair. So if we can provide a bearing that's going to last for 3, 4, 5 years, because it is a bearing, it will wear out eventually in the right, people ride. And people ride in the winter and everything else. So no bearing is ever going to last, for eternity, because it will wear eventually. But if you can spend 300 quid on repair once every 3, 4 years, as opposed to every 8 months.
So when you say a lifetime warranty, you still see the lifetime of a bearing being... It's so subjective to the lifetime of a bearing, isn't it? Because it depends on use and everything else. But the warranty will, if you wear it out in 5 years, we would give you a new bearing. The
thing is, Paul, it's, we want to be easy to work with. And the most important thing for us is we've got happy customers. Of course. And as I say for you guys, it's what you do as well. So we honestly it'll be quibble free. We're not going to go into a big discussion about this, that, or the next thing. If the guy's got a problem, we're just going to replace the bearing. It's as simple as that, honestly. And it's much, much more important to us for the cost of a bearing. Sure. To keep the customer and keep your customer happy. We'd rather just do that.
There's an awful lot of other bike shops that watch our channel, which is awesome, and I'm pretty sure you'll see them down there. You make a comment down below. So you're saying that these 440s, we can, as bike mechanics, say to someone, fit these. They're £52 each, so it's £105 something for us for a set to do it. When you say lifetime warranty, now on a road bike, for me, that should be 5-6 years. I would say probably. For a mountain bike, depending on how well you clean it, but you can do something to extend the warranty. Now, Chris King do a similar thing. Chris King are probably the only people I know of that do a lifetime warranty on headsets, and I'm pretty sure people in the comments will be saying, my Chris King headset is an heirloom. Sure. It's kind of gets passed down from bike to bike if it wasn't for modern integrated stuff. So if I was to say, is this the Chris King of integrated headsets, how comfortable would you feel about that?
There is nothing else out there that kind of compares as far as warranty goes. The thing with Chris King is it's a component. So that component you can move from bike to bike. With this is a solution, like you say, for integrated bikes, where realistically you're probably going to have that bike 3-4 years before you're probably moving on to something else anyway. But
I don't know. I think a good.
But the reality is,
people are looking at a decade out of a road bike.
I mean, that is the solution. To provide a bearing at a reasonable price with a lifetime guarantee. There is other brands. Cane Creek offer headsets with a lifetime warranty, which again is a drop-in cartridge bearing like that, and it's the same thing. It's no quibble. We'll just, if you wear that bearing out, we'll give you another one. So the reality is, yes, you can sell it in that way.
And I guess the argument there is it's no massive cost for you. It's a relatively small cost, okay, to give a new bearing, but the consumer is still faced with the cost of a massive service.
But that's the thing, but you're going to get that if you're running a cheap. If you're an OEM bearing, probably lasts 8 months if you're lucky, depending on where you're riding. So you're going to have to change that integrated headset bearing pretty soon. So if they then fit one of those, it may be that they have to do it in 3, 4, 5 years time, but you're only having that cost once as opposed to every few months for you, if you see what I mean. So the thing with XT15 is it's a great product, and for bottom brackets and for wheel bearings it makes a lot of sense, because it's cost wise it's smaller because they're smaller bearings, but because they spin you get all the advantages of the burnishing and everything else, and they get better with age. With a headset bearing, you basically just want protection.
Okay, so there we go. If you're in a bike shop and your bike mechanic's recommending these expensive upgrades. You've heard of me, confident lifetime warranty. Chris King of Integrated Headsets, potentially.
Go with that.
I want to end this with a little tough question. When you first came in, I showed you a Hambini bottom bracket for the first time, and this is the Hambini, the one-piece solution, and we talked about stiffness and that sort of thing, and how this compares. And your thoughts on this were, this is the first time you've seen one, I think, wasn't it? It was like, and I said, this is perhaps where the industry is going. We've seen Senvite do one, BB Infinite are famous for doing this. What was your response to that, with what Enduro offer in your range? Because you were like, I'm not really sure about how this fits in.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Enduro, basically with a lot of this stuff is problem solvers.
Yeah,
as you know,
it's a £400 bottom bracket problem solver.
Solving an issue that shouldn't really exist.
Yeah,
it does. And Enduro were the first brand to bring out the thread together press fit solution back in 2011. And then obviously there's loads on the market. Everybody does a thread together.
World manufacturing, right? They're all out there. So you've got a lot of competition.
There's a lot of competition, and to be honest, it's one of those things that. As long as the shell is the right size, then it will work. The key thing is also getting a decent bearing in it. But I mean, we're starting to see a few more single piece or one piece bottom brackets come out. It's not something that I'm aware of that Enduro are looking at the moment, but it's certainly.
But we're always looking and listening and seeing where we're going. And
I have to say, I measured this. I've got the micrometer out, and this is exactly bob on 41 millimeters, exactly the same as Hambini. So it's precision.
Well, we do.
All there.
Honestly, we do pride ourselves on quality.
Yeah,
and even the name Enduro, which is funny because it's now a mountain bike term. It actually came originally back in those days for something that lasts a long time. Endures in time, and that's where the name came from.
So here's my last question then. So also when you came in, I showed you the NTN bearings now, and I said that actually our customers are coming in asking us for NTN bearings because of the Hambini effect, if you like, and I showed you the two that we sell. This is the low contact seal that comes with a Hambini bottom bracket that people see in his videos, and the famous spin test and everything else. And then what we've encountered as a shop is that these really don't last very long, a little bit of water and stuff, and we replaced an awful lot of these, and because of the NTN effect, we're saying actually if they do a double lip seal, and which is, you can tell the difference. This really doesn't.
You can feel the difference.
There's a lot of friction in that, but these do last. So for those people that are out there watching, where would you put an Enduro bearing on this sort of range? If I was to say, what's the alternative from Enduro from that, or do you even do one, or if not, why not?
Yeah, I mean, we don't do anything apart from the ceramic hybrid with the VV seal. We don't do anything with a low contact seal.
Yeah,
because we want it to last.
Okay.
So as far as drag reduction goes, that will spin faster. But as you said, the sooner you get a bit of water in there, because it's chromium steel, it's going to do well. I think there's an NTN in one of this lot, I think. So it will corrode, and the corrosion is basically the number one bearing killer.
Yeah.
So as soon as you get corrosion in there, it's not going to last very long.
Yes.
I mean, as far as like precision goes, I don't know what Abex rating those are. Do you know what Abex rating they are?
I don't think they give their bearings an Abex rating. They've got a massive workbook, and they go down to the nth degree on what precision rating they guarantee it to. But I'm not sure they're signed up to the Abex system.
As far as the Abex system goes, it's essentially a noise rating.
Yeah.
So it's more designed for industrial use, for bearings that spin at really high RPM.
You would normally see these in factories, conveyor belts, electric motors.
Electric motors, exactly.
That sort of thing.
So you have high rotational speeds and low loading.
Yeah.
Whereas we really build our bearings for low rotational speeds and high loading.
Yeah. And high, like uneven loading.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
There's really everything that Enduro make is for bikes. So it is a bicycle specific bearing brand. So if you were to take an Enduro bearing, and put it into a motor, it's not necessarily going to work because there's too much drag in the seals. There's too much grease in it. So there's really four key differences. An NTN bearing is an industrial bearing. With Enduro, you have four things that make it different. We use a bigger ball size, which we've discussed before, but it runs in a deeper groove. So essentially you've got more, it keeps the ball running in a straight line. So there's more support either side of the ball. So with that, it has quite a flat surface and it allows the ball to shift. So when you load it, the balls inside the races move.
Okay.
If you see what I mean. Yeah. So it increases wear.
So you would perhaps see that play out as a lack of precision, but what you're saying is that's almost a built-in lack of precision to allow some compliance in the use.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's the bearing designed for specific bicycle use, whereas when they're in a machine running at 15,000 RPM, the balls doesn't matter if they're moving around because it's
aligned all the time.
Yeah, exactly that. They're not aligned. And as soon as you put it in a bike and you lean into a corner and evereverything else.
Yeah, I guess with the bikes, you've got lots of things going on, really, haven't you? You've got the pedaling load, which is uneven anyway, and then you've got the compliance of the carbon that it's pressed into, which is going to flex as well, or even aluminium, which will have flex as well. And then you've got all the hits that you're taking from the road. There's an awful lot of material flexing and moving and stuff in a bicycle. It's definitely not a solid shaft just spinning.
No, that's right.
Okay.
So, but yeah, and so that's the two. So the size, ball size, the depth of the grooves, and then you've also got the seals, which we've talked about. And just the material choices. You know, if it's chromium steel, it should work with a chromium steel ball. Yeah. Ceramic bearings, for the different reasons, the ceramic ball is harder than the race.
Yep.
So they don't work together; they will wear each other out essentially. So yeah, it's just the right choice of product.
No, I think that's a good answer. To be honest, I think that's what we see in the shop here. We have definitely stock this for demand.
Sure.
You can't deny that if someone just wants ultimate performance, so that's a very appealing.
And it's not that they're bad products at all. Exactly. You know, they're good products, but they're not necessarily designed with this purpose in mind.
Yep.
And the reason that will last longer is seals.
Oh yeah,
and they may use
seals on these are epic.
But they may use a different grease in it as well. So they may have a thicker viscosity.
And I think actually you said that these are for like an underwater application or something. It's such an interesting subject as well as how all these brands are poured into the market. SKF do a similar thing, but you're very much stuck down. We are a cycling brand. We're for cyclists that uneven loading,
and we're a manufacturer. We make our bearings.
You know,
but probably a lot of people don't know.
Actually, I think you get accused sometimes of just rebranding. I think, but actually, you've actually got a factory where you know.
Our principal factory is in Singapore. We have we have another facility in Taiwan, joint venture in China, and also in Auckland, where our head office is. We do some products over there too.
Direct line of sight on the quality control and everything.
Exactly.
I'm done with questions. Have you guys got anything you really want to make our audience? We've having a lot of ground here.
I think you can go too long. I think so. No, all good.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time and being patient with us and actually really explaining the product so well. I hope you guys enjoyed that podcast. If you do, please subscribe to the channel and make sure you get those comments down below. I'm pretty sure you guys will be watching and we'll loop in and try
we will
respond to whatever we can. All right, cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.